Welcome to the Fame Files, episode 33. This week we're going to look into Black Sabbath's farewell concert. All the chatter online about it anyway.
Yeah, tons of buzz. And for good reason, right? I mean, we're talking the OGs, Black Sabbath, back together one last time. And in Birmingham, no less.
And it's being billed as Ozzy Osbourne's, final performance ever.
That's the word on the street.
Okay, wow. So to get into all this, we've got a couple articles, one from The Independent and one from the BBC. Oh, and a ticket guide from Birmingham Live.
Should be helpful.
Yeah, hopefully. So what's the overall vibe? What are fans saying?
Well, it's a mixed bag, really. You've got the diehards who are, over the moon about the lineup. I mean, it's historic, right? But then there's the sticker shock. Lots of grumbling about those ticket prices.
Yeah, I've seen some of that online. Oof.
It's getting compared to, the whole Ticketmaster debacle. The Independent even brought up the Oasis and Taylor Swift fiascos.
Yikes. Yeah, those were rough. Can you remind everyone what dynamic pricing even is and why it's so controversial?
Right. So basically, with dynamic pricing, the ticket price goes up and down depending on demand. In theory, it's supposed to stop scalpers, but it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, that's what everyone's saying.
It usually just means tickets get crazy expensive for, the really popular shows, so regular fans, they get priced out.
Which seems to be what's happening here. The articles mention prices from £197.50, and that's the low end.
Ouch.
Some seats are going for £834, and one fan even said they saw, get this, a gold circle-side stage package for over £2,900.
Seriously. That's a lot of money. Makes you wonder what exactly that package includes.
Right. What does gold circle-side stage even mean at a show like this?
Typically, you're talking about being really close to the stage. Prime viewing area, maybe even off to the side of the stage itself. You might get, early entry, special merch, maybe even a chance to meet the artists.
Okay, so maybe some serious bragging rights are baked into that price.
Could be.
Still tough to swallow for a lot of fans who just want to say goodbye to a legendary band.
Definitely raises questions about accessibility. Can all the fans actually be a part of this farewell? The Independent article mentions someone who managed to get accessible tickets, but they said those were selling out super fast.
Oh, man, that's rough. And then there's the fact that this is also a charity event, right? All the money's going to Cure Parkinson's, Birmingham Children's Hospital, and Acorns Children's Hospice.
Yeah, that adds a whole other dimension to the conversation. You'd think that would, soften the blow of the high prices, but...
It doesn't seem to be working that way. I'm seeing a lot of pushback online, even from people who support those charities.
I get it. It's one thing to donate to a cause. It's another to feel like you're, being asked to pay a premium just to say goodbye to a band you love.
Right. Makes you wonder if there could have been a way to do both, offer some cheaper tickets and still raise money for these organizations.
Maybe. It's a tricky balance, that's for sure. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I got to talk about this lineup. Metallica, Slayer, Pantera. This is a full-blown heavy metal festival all in one night.
And then there's that supergroup, Slash and Duff from Guns N' Roses, Billy Corgan, Fred Durst. It's a who's who of rock royalty.
Pretty epic. You don't see that every day. To have all these different musicians come together like this just for Black Sabbath, it says a lot about their impact.
Maybe that's why some fans are saying the price is actually worth it. You're not just seeing Black Sabbath, you're getting this whole heavy metal experience.
That's true. And if you think about what it would cost to see each of these acts on their own tours...
It'd be way more, for sure.
Way more.
So maybe it's not as crazy as it seems at first glance. But I gotta say, Ozzy's final performance ever still kind of blows my mind. Do you think this is really it? Or is it just a clever marketing ploy?
Well, he is 76, and he's been pretty open about his Parkinson's.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine him doing a full tour after this.
That adds a whole other layer to this thing, doesn't it? It's not just about the music or the lineup or even the price. It's about, witnessing a legend taking his final bow.
Exactly. And that's got to be driving a lot of the demand, no matter what the tickets cost.
Okay, yeah, starting to get it now. It's like a pilgrimage for these fans, a chance to say goodbye to a band that's, shaped their life, shaped the whole genre, really.
You got it. It's history, it's emotion, it's FOMO. Powerful combo.
Definitely sounds like something people will be talking about for years to come. But before we get too caught up in all that, maybe we should step back and think about
Birmingham itself, where it all started for them.
Oh, yeah, good point. The BBC article really leaned into that whole hometown pride thing. They even talked to this super fan, Alex Woodford, I think it was, and he's ready to drop up to $2,000 on tickets.
Wow. Yeah, they quoted him saying something like, when you set up all the bands that are playing and how much it would cost to see each of them separately, it's totally worth it.
Okay, so that's kind of his justification that, you're getting a heavy metal festival for the price of one show.
I guess so. Yeah, if you look at it that way, it doesn't seem as outrageous.
Right. But you also wouldn't get that same, historical vibe. The feeling of being there for this huge moment in music.
True, true. The BBC article also brought up the other side of this, like the fans who are just, priced out completely. They quoted one who said, "It's hard enough to afford a concert these days, period." But then they make it even harder to see our idols, actually perform live.
Yeah, that's rough. It's like this tension between celebrating Black Sabbath's legacy and, well, making sure everyone can actually be a part of it.
Tough situation for sure. And it kind of speaks to like the bigger issue in the music industry right now, making live music affordable for
It's
everyone.
not just about the cost either, right? Like, this is a huge event, logistically, pulling off a show with this many big names. That's got to be a night.
Oh, absolutely. And with high demand comes, well,
Yeah.
scams. The BBC mentioned this guy, Red Walker, who's a ticket security expert. Basically, he's urging fans to stick to the official sites like Ticketmaster because the unofficial resale sites, they're just full of, scams and crazy markups.
Good reminder for everyone listening. For sure, always double-check those sources. Speaking of which, the Birmingham Live article does a good job breaking it all down, like the different ticket types, the prices.
Yeah, they even have a seating chart, which is super helpful. They said Gold Circle standing is £412 50s, general admission standing is £262 50s, and seated tickets are like between £197.50 and £662 50s.
So there's a range there, but even the cheap tickets are still, a splurge.
Right, right. But I think for a lot of these fans, it's more than just a concert. It's like saying goodbye to a band that's been, the soundtrack to their lives.
Like a pilgrimage almost.
Yeah, exactly. And that says a lot about Black Sabbath's impact. You mentioned earlier that you're like more familiar with their hits. I bet a lot of people are in the same boat.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know the classics, Paranoid, Iron Man, but I'm a little lost beyond that.
Well, if you want to like really dive into their early stuff, you got to check out their first three albums, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and Master of Reality. Those are like essential listening for any metalhead.
Okay, I'll add those to the list. What about, like, other bands that carry that Black Sabbath sound? What should we be listening to, get the full picture?
Oh man, so many. Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, those are the obvious ones. But their influence goes beyond just metal too, like even grunge bands like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains. And then some of the more experimental metal acts like Tool and Mastodon, they really laid the foundation for like a whole genre.
That's crazy. Maybe we need a whole other episode to unpack all that.
Good idea. But for now, let's bring it back to this farewell concert. So we've covered the tickets, the lineup, the hometown angle, the scams. What else is there?
Well, we mentioned the charities that are going to benefit from this, Cure Parkinson's, Birmingham Children's Hospital, Acorns Children's Hospice, but we didn't really get into what they do.
True. True Cure Parkinson's. Obviously, they're focused on finding a cure for Parkinson's disease, but they also provide like support and resources for people living with the disease and their families.
So it's pretty personal for Ozzy then.
Absolutely. And then Birmingham Children's Hospital, they do amazing work providing specially care for kids and teenagers in the area, everything from emergency care to like complex surgeries, and they also help with long-term support for chronic conditions.
And Acorns Children's Hospice, they provide care and support for children with life-limiting decisions and their families, of course. It's really cool that Black Sabbath is using this platform to, help these organizations out.
It is, it is. It makes this whole ticket price thing even more complicated, right? Like, it's great that they're supporting these causes.
But is it okay to ask fans to, like, pay a premium for it, even if it is for charity?
Tough question. Some fans will be totally fine with it, especially if they, really believe in these charities. Others might feel, I don't know, excluded or even resentful, even if they support the causes themselves.
No easy answers here, it seems. It really comes down to, like, your own values and your own situation. But it's something to think about, how we as fans engage with live music and the role it plays in our lives.
Totally. It's a whole web of like complicated stuff. And this Black Sabbath farewell, it's really brought all that to the surface.
Yeah, it has. So, listener, as we head into the last part of this episode, we want to hear from you. Where do you stand on all of this? Would you pay, like, hundreds, thousands even, just to see Black Sabbath say goodbye? And what does this whole thing say about heavy metal, about a band's legacy?
Yeah, big questions. And while we're on the topic of legacy, we should probably talk about the band themselves, right? They haven't played together in what, 2 decades?
Right. I mean, what's the vibe going to be like on stage? Have they said anything about, like, how they're approaching this reunion, especially with all their past drama?
It sounds like they're, trying to keep it positive, wanting to give the fans a proper send-off. There's a sense that they've put the past behind them, at least for this.
Oh, that's nice to hear, especially after all the stories. But speaking of stories, let's talk about the music. For anyone listening who's, like, new to Black Sabbath, Where should they start? What are the must-listen tracks?
Definitely their first three albums, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and Master of Reality. If you want that classic Black Sabbath sound, that's where you go.
Okay, so we're talking like dark, heavy riffs, Ozzy's voice. What about the lyrics? What kind of stuff did they sing about?
They went to some pretty dark places, lyrically, occultism, war, social unrest, but also like personal struggles, reflections on like the human condition. It's that mix of heavy and introspective that makes their music so interesting.
So it's not all just doom and gloom.
Not at all.
And their influence obviously is huge. We talked about that a bit, but can you give some specific examples? Like, how did their sound shape the metal scene?
Oh man, everywhere you look, Metallica's early stuff, Slayer's aggression, even grunge bands like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, they all took something from Black Sabbath.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's great. They really did change everything.
And to have all those bands, Metallica, Slayer, all of them, joining Black Sabbath for this farewell, that's got to mean something, right?
Oh yeah, it's a huge sign of respect. They're basically royalty in the metal world.
And then there's Ozzy, right? This being his last show, probably with his health and everything. That just adds this whole other layer of, like, emotion to the whole thing.
It's more than just a concert at this point, It's like a chance for fans to celebrate his whole career, to thank him for the music, and to just, I don't know, be there for this moment, seeing a legend walk away.
Powerful stuff. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Black Sabbath's farewell, we'll leave you with this.
Think about the impact Black Sabbath has had, on music, on culture. Their sound has touched so many people, inspired so many artists. They basically created heavy metal as we know it.
And whether or not you can make it to this last show, remember the music. Remember that power, that darkness, the heaviness, the poetry.
Even Black Sabbath's legacy, it's going to live on way beyond this one concert.
It'll be a farewell for the ages, that's for sure. Until next time, keep rocking. CC